And you're live. Hello, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports for today's Thursday news show, part of the new regular programming. We tried to show it around this time last week, and it was pretty successful. So we thought that obviously this sort of time slot does actually work, and if it does work, then why not? Keep it ready. And I think that's the biggest thing is that I love doing these live shows, and we want to do these live shows more, but it comes down to whether time allows it and stuff like that around my other work schedules and stuff like that. And unfortunately, a lot of the time I've got time sometimes during the day, but not in the evenings where we traditionally did these shows. So we are trying a new sort of schedule and stuff like that, and that's why we are now live at 1 o'clock in South African time. But as I said last time, most of the people actually managed to join us, so I think it is a slot that does potentially work. What we'd like to do is potentially do two new shows during the week, like a Tuesday, Thursday lunchtime shows, and then a Sunday evening kind of wrap up. And I think that'll be quite a nice sort of idea. But yes, so for the next half an hour, we're going to be chatting everything rugby, very much on the URC train ahead of the playoffs, which are starting in fact, tomorrow's the first playoff as Ulster to take on Munster. But some very exciting news regarding next season, and it's been the news that we've all been waiting for. And that is the European Champions Cup and the European Challenge Cup participation from South African side has been confirmed, and it's been quite an interesting announcement because there's suddenly a fifth team involved that we didn't expect to see happening. So we're going to talk about that. But let me know where you're watching from. Let me know how your week's going. Let me know what you think about the recent announcement, which we're going to talk about a bit now. And let me know which games you're looking forward to this weekend. So I see that we've got Johan Rugby in the comments, I think. KPMG saying it's amazing news. So happy for all the Cheetahs fans out there. The Ultimate Sharpshooter says French and English fans are fuming. Hello, Matrix. Hope you're well. Hello, Steven Swart. Welcome. So the news was confirmed today is that there will be 5 teams playing in Europe next season. 5 teams that will be playing across the European Champions Cup and the European Challenge Cup. Now, your immediate thing is, well, there are only 4 URC teams. So how is that happening? The Cheetahs have been brought back from the fringes, and they, alongside the Lions, will be taking part in the European in the European Challenge Cup, rather, which is the tier below the Champions Cup, or the Heineken Cup, as most people know it as. And I think that's very interesting because I think, we've been waiting, sitting there saying, what are we going to do with the Cheetahs? We can't afford to let this union, die or whatever. But there was only 4 slots in the URC, and I don't think that there will be more slots available in the URC in the near future. Unfortunately, I think it's just the sort of the reality of the competition. I mean, it's a competition that's been critiqued so often for changing all the time. So you kind of now need to actually say, right, this is the format, we're going to commit to it, and maybe bring in relegation, promotion, stuff like that at a later stage. But definitely, it's not going to be the case anytime soon. Because after on the back of all the COVID issues and stuff like that, we just need a little bit of continuity here. So the big sort of question was continuously asking what's going to happen with the Cheetahs, where they're going to play. And there were talks about a potential competition in Europe, with teams from Spain and stuff like that. And we sort of were sitting waiting to see what was going to happen. What we definitely did not expect is that without URC Rugby, they are actually going to be involved in the Champions Cup. And I think it's a massive move, but the practicality of it is also very interesting in itself because they are not part of the URC, nor will they be part of the URC. And it does sound like there's basically been contracts signed with the current URC sides where there won't be relegation. They have ring fenced it for the foreseeable future. I don't know if it's a 4-year contract, 5-year contract, could be a 10-year contract, could be a 1-year contract. I know it's more. I mean, and yeah, so it could end of next year. But at this stage, it has been ring fenced from the URC. So the Cheetahs were never going to be able to play in the URC. But the fact that they've managed to swindle an agreement where without playing in the URC, they're still going to play in the Challenge Cup is a massive boost because now the Cheetahs are playing in an international competition. They're playing very well in the Currie Cup, and you kind of imagine they would. 2 reasons. First of all, it still is quite a good squad, but also the other South African teams aren't necessarily playing their best players in the Currie Cup, so it has been a bit of a weakened Currie Cup. And as a result, you've got a couple of sides who've had weakened sides playing against a full-strength Cheetahs side. I think that what's going to be very interesting is what competitions the Cheetahs are going to be in next year. Because is it going to be just the Currie Cup and the Challenge Cup? Because if it is, for me, the Cheetahs suddenly stand probably even a better chance than the Lions of doing well in the Challenge Cup because they don't play URC. So they'll be playing their Curry Cup matches. Let's say, I don't know, how many Curry Cup matches do you play in a season? 10, 11. And that's it, and then your Challenge Cup matches. So you'll have far more. You don't have to have such as big a squad because you've got fewer games to sort of fulfill. Whereas if you think of the Lions in the Challenge Cup, for example, and I'm just referring to the Challenge Cup, and then we'll get to the Champions Cup, they'll be playing URC, they'll be playing Curry Cup, and they'll be playing Challenge Cup. So they'll be playing 3 competitions. So I think the Cheetahs could actually do quite well in the Challenge Cup, just from a sort of a being fresh type point of view in terms of not playing necessarily week in week out at a incredibly high level, but at the same time, does that play then to the disadvantage? The fact that they're not playing against European opposition week in, week out. They're not playing in European conditions week in, week out. And then suddenly you're going from playing against the Griquas in Kimberley to playing against a side like Edinburgh, or maybe like a Welsh side like a Scarlets or an Ospreys, for example, in Wales. That's quite a big difference. So that's what I say. I think the practicality of it's going to be quite interesting, but I think it's a massive bonus to have the Cheetahs involved because we couldn't let them die. You can understand why they moved the 4 Super Rugby franchises because they are the biggest franchises, but then it was everybody sort of felt that the Cheetahs were shafted. So the big thing now is to find almost another competition for the Cheetahs to a certain degree, and whether it's going to be one with sort of Spanish teams or stuff like that, or that's going to be interesting to sort of see if they are looking for a different competition for them to play at the same time. Because at the moment, the Cheetahs don't play any rugby in the end of the year. During that sort of September, October, November, December months when there's URC going on, the Cheetahs won't play rugby at this stage in the current schedule. So what's going to happen there? But in terms of the entire thing, so Champions Cup, at this stage, the Sharks, Bulls, and Stormers have been confirmed that they have qualified for the Champions Cup. They will be playing Heineken Cup next year, which is amazing. I mean, for football fans, it's Champions League rugby, basically. It's exactly the same thing. We're going to be playing against La Rochelle. We're going to be playing against, Premiership sides. It's going to be fantastic. We're now playing with the best players in the world all the time, in the Northern Hemisphere. We're playing against some of the best franchises, so this move to North, which so many people are skeptical about, has, for me, been so long overdue, and we are now going to see just how valuable this is. I mean, first of all, you think of the cash injection this will happen to our unions. More European, there's more TV rights, for example. There's European support. There's you get money from the competition itself. That's in pounds or euros. Look at and compared to the exchange rate, stuff like that. So we've got to make sure this money gets put to use because we are financially so much better off by going over to the Northern Hemisphere. And I think that it's 2 things. It also means, for example, we need bigger squads. Lions, Bulls, Sharks, Stormers are all competing in 3 competitions at the same time. I personally think that we should be looking at moving the schedule of the Curry Cup. And I think the Curry Cup should be played maybe sort of August, September, and almost maybe before the URC. Potentially, I don't know. I just think that at the moment the Curry Cup's kind of getting lost within the URC, and even more so in the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup next season. So they need to find a better way for me to try and sort of fit that in. But from a squad point of view, if you're in 3 competitions, you can no longer have like a 35-man squad. You've got to have bigger squads, and they had already made arrangements in terms of extending a salary cap, in terms of having players as part of sort of development squads almost, who are sort of younger players who are part of a broader squad. And hopefully this means that we need to keep more players within the country because there's going to be far more playing opportunity. So it's a win-win-win-win-win situation, and we're seeing all the players going to the Sharks and stuff like that, for example. They are building a squad to compete on all fronts. Performances-wise, I think that they've got a lot to improve on because I think that they're still not hitting the heights that they should be hitting because they've got so many good players. But from a squad point of view, they're doing exactly what needs to be done. It's whether the other unions will now start taking themselves seriously and start following it. But Manchester 6 Pretoria, South Africa excited for this weekend. Let's go Sharks. Albert Charles says Cheetahs have to hit the ground running and get good results by the looks of this. If this is invitational. Grant Swart says really happy that the Cheetahs found a spot. Tony says really happy for Cheetahs, but they're going to get destroyed. So going to be a learning curve like the 4 unions and the URC. I'll just agree because in Kimberley are no joke. 100%. I'd far rather play in Wales than I'll play in Kimberley. Honey says Cheetahs going to need to be way, way better. I mean, Greek was destroyed there. Imagine what Leon or Toulon or Saracens will do. Captain Crunch says winners of the Challenge Cup should be promoted to URC. In my opinion, it would promote competition. Well, the problem is you can have a French and an English side winning the Challenge Cup, so that would suddenly be so it wouldn't really work that thing. I mean, maybe you could do it to a URC point of view, but yeah, I don't really like. I never think that like European competitions, for example, should affect domestic competitions. And URC is yes, a European competition, but for all intents and purposes, a domestic competition. It's a league, as opposed to a cup tournament or whatever. Um, but Ultra says can't wait for Bosch versus Finn Russell. Heineken Cup gonna make us cry even more. No, I think we'll be okay actually. Only option is to wait for whoever promotes the Curry Cup First Division and let them grow along with Cheetahs, Griquas, and Pumas. Of course, it'll be a very long process. How do you think Cheetahs will perform if they are put in the URC? Very keen for this weekend, going to be at Loftus. I think the Cheetahs. I don't think the Cheetahs would do any better than the Lions done, to be perfectly honest. In fact, over the last 18 months, the Lions beat the Cheetahs more times than the Cheetahs beat the Lions. In terms of when their full squads were there. In fact, I think the last time their full squads played against each other was about last year in January or whatever, and the Lions absolutely hammered the Cheetahs. So I don't think they would have done any better than the Lions. I'm not saying they would have done any worse, but I think that they're quite similar in terms of their shortcomings. I think that they've got some very exciting players. I think they play a very nice brand of rugby, but I think that they don't have the squad depth that the Lions don't have as well. So I think they have quite similar issues, similar problems, you know. And I think that a certain amount of loyalty to the Lions is deserved, given the fact that they were so good for a large part of the last sort of 10 years. So to have them cast aside, because they've always got the short end of the stick, haven't they? Booted out of Super Rugby without a relegation match, had to do the hard way to get back into Super Rugby, then did very well to get up to Super Rugby finals, and then they've been absolutely torn apart ever since from other teams and stuff like that. And it comes down to the fact that the Lions don't have investment. But I think the Cheetahs as well, you know, there's no big money buyer, for example, at the Union. There's no massive financial pool to bring in the best players. You know, I mean, the fact that Frans Steyn, for example, is staying at the Cheetahs has probably got everything as much to do with the fact that he's got a farm there and he gets to be on his farm and play for the Cheetahs than it does for actually playing for the Cheetahs. I think if he had purely rugby ambitions and no other interests, he wouldn't be at the Cheetahs, if we're being very honest. He'd be at a URC franchise. But for him, he's like, well, I can play for the Cheetahs. And look, I think he's got a lot of loyalty to the Cheetahs. I think Frans Steyn does like the Cheetahs a lot. But for him, his situation, he can live on his farm and he can play for the Cheetahs. And it's a win-win situation for him. Whether if it was purely rugby things in terms of wanting to play the best level of rugby and wanting to try and win trophies and stuff like that, he would be at another union within the URC, or he'd be still playing in France or whatever. So I think that the Cheetahs and the Lions, and have that issue in terms of being able to attract players from a financial point of view. They just don't really have the money to be able to compete. So I think that they would have been very similar to the Lions. I think they probably would have won a couple of games, but I don't think they would have done any bad. I don't think they would have been making playoffs and stuff like that. I think we need to be very realistic in terms of what they've done in the Curry Cup, in terms of the context in which they've done it. But enjoy Loftus this weekend. I see a lot of people talking about going to this weekend. Grant Swartz, the only way to be competitive in 3 competition will be to bring the Japan and European-based players back home. How to bring back that is money. I agree. Matthew says, I doubt that if we can challenge Leinster, we can challenge the rest in Europe. Well, that's the thing. We've had games against Leinster. We have been, some games obviously we've been completely outplayed, but the more we grow, the more we'll be competitive. The Lions beat Munster. I know it wasn't a full-strength Munster side, but they did beat Munster. And that's the Lions, who were the worst South African side. So things can happen. Honey says, Lions are going to do much better than Cheetahs in the Challenge Cup. I tend to agree, or depending on what the Lions recruitment's like. Mike says, since so many overseas-based players are moving back home, it's clear that home-based teams are reaching out. He said, unfortunately, we just need more teams with money, not just the Sharks and the Bulls. Do you think SA rugby teams will be seeing more foreign investors with current move to Europe? I think it has to come, doesn't it? Because if there's one thing you've got in South Africa, is a very large rugby fan base. And so surely we're going to be starting. I mean, I know if we the small things. Lions have got a Italian kit provider. They don't have a typical Adidas or a Nike, or I wish we had a Nike or whatever, but a Canterbury, for example, or a Max, like South African company with the Sharks, stuff like that. They've got an Italian kit provider. Now that's a small thing. That's the small thing. We're really starting to see a bit of foreign investment. Now, what I want to see is like some massive, huge corporate. You look at like the Premier League sponsors and stuff like that. I want to see something massive like that coming in for one of these sides. I mean, the Lions have got that Emirates sponsorship, but I don't know how long they're going to be able to keep it. But those are what we need. We need those sort of companies. We need to be seeing the Etihad as like the prime sponsor of the Bulls and stuff like that, or British Airways and some of these big sort of global companies coming in. And hopefully we will see that. And I truly believe that we will. As I said, I think it's just a matter of time. We've got to be patient. And he says only teams that should really beat us are Toulouse, Leinster, La Rochelle, Leicester, Tigers, and Racing, or Racing 92. Mark says, great to see the Cheetahs back from a Leinster supporter. Agree, but moving to Heineken Cup should bring them sweet, sweet pounds. South African teams will be much better next season. Also, South African teams will not playing any URC teams in the pool stages of Heineken Cup. How are we going to play a weaker team in the URC if we play Heineken Cup? Well, that's the next sort of thing, isn't it? I think it's going to be, yeah, I think it's because yesterday I had an interview with Edgar Rathbone. In fact, it's actually up on the channel. They had a press conference with him, and I think what we're going to see is the salary cap, for example, has been increased now. And if I can remember correctly, I can try and bring up that old press release. The plan is to have another increase, but it's not big increases. I mean, I think it's like the French and the English one are well over 100 million rand a season. We're sitting at, I think, in the 70s, 80s. So we've obviously got to try and find that extra 40, 50 million rand to put us on a par. And then you are sitting there going, well, you can play for Saracens or Leicester Tigers or whatever, and earn this, or you can stay in South Africa and you can earn the exact same package. So then you just got to remove the financial pool. You've got to remove the financial pool. Now, I know that the pound and the euro will obviously always be a bigger thing, but if you are earning the same that you will earn over there, even if you are earning pounds, the equivalent, you're earning the same thing, then it becomes a personal thing. If you want to go to Europe because you're worried about safety or you don't want to live in South Africa or whatever, that's something that we can't control, that unions can't control. That's just a personal preference. But we just need to get to that situation where we are not losing players based on financial decisions. That it needs to be financially viable to play for South African side, and it needs to be as financially viable to play. I mean, obviously there'll be a couple of exceptions because maybe a Toulouse will say, we want to make, I don't know, Evan Lewis the best paid player in the world. And the Stormers are sitting there going, no, like we need to spend our money elsewhere. We'd rather have a much bigger squad than to put it all in one player. So obviously there will all be those situations, but just in general, if you could sit there saying, right, well, Edinburgh offer me this and to a Lions player, and the Lions say, well, we can also offer you that, fine. Or we'll better that offer. Imagine. And you're sitting there saying, wow, cool, I'll stay here. I'm playing well here. My family's settled here. At this stage I want to stay in South Africa, and pay me the same amount as someone to go overseas. So wants to go overseas. That's just with the situation we need to get to. Medic says stadium capacity was increased to 100% and things like the proof of facts. I think we would have capacity stadiums this weekend. Yeah, I would be interested to see. Well, there's no excuse not to be 50%. There really isn't, is there? So hopefully we will see. And the nice thing about it is that South African stadiums are massive. So 50% at Loftus can be, I think it's 27,000 seats or whatever it is. So yeah, there should still be decent crowds. You're not going to get much more, even if you were in Europe, for example, because the stadiums aren't as big. So that's always something I've had a good laugh at, because people used to sit there say, you see New Zealand always fill their stadiums, and you're like, yeah, but I mean they're filling a 15,000 seater, whereas Ellis Park has got 20,000 people in it, but it's a quarter empty or third empty because they've got a capacity of 60,000 people. So the context is always important, but we do need to fill our stadiums more. But we need to make it more of an event. I just don't feel like it's two things actually. It needs to become more of an event, but it also needs to become like second nature. Like it's, of course we're going to watch this weekend. Like if you look at football in Premier League sides, it's like it's not an option. Like it's, Stormers are playing, so we're going. And that's when I was a season ticket holder at Ellis Park. It was like that. It was, oh, so we're playing, it's a home game, so we're at Ellis on Friday night or Saturday afternoon, and it was just second nature. It wasn't a case of, oh, should we go to the rugby? It was like, oh, we are going to the rugby. And that's also what we need to try and bring in. Honey says we're going to be burnt out. We're not used to much competition in games. So I think that's where the whole the squad depth comes in. Shropshire says, yep, true, 100% down to finance. Most players love SA because their families are here and the culture is lekker. You go to Loftus with Bulls t-shirt and Bulls flag, Lions out, so why not? I will be sitting here with everybody here watching that game. So is it official that Cheetahs will join the URC yet? No, so they're not in the URC. Nor will they be in the URC, but they have been included in the Challenge Cup. So we will have 5 teams in the Challenge Cup, 4 teams in the URC. Well, sorry, 5 teams in Europe, 2 teams in the Challenge Cup, 3 teams in the Champions Cup, 4 teams in the URC. Twickenham always fill their seats, but Twickenham is only used for international games. Did you see if we lose one game against Wales and Ireland beat New Zealand, we go to second in the World Cup. If we beat Wales 3-0, we gain nothing. Well, I mean, we can't. I mean, if you're at the top, you can only go down. Don't even create hypothetical situation where Evan Lewis leads the Stormers. We have enough issues. Yeah, listen, Grant, you just signed Joseph Dweber, so I actually don't care about your issues at all. You know, we've got bigger issues than you do. So don't come with your Stormers got issues. Yeah, I mean, I understand that your administration. I mean, I know you're under administration. I mean, it's weird because the Lions are not run badly in terms of a corruption thing. You know, they get clean audits and it seems to be running pretty well, and they're turning a profit. They're not losing a lot of money and stuff like that. We just don't have money. As opposed to the Stormers in the Western Province, who seem to be signing in lots of good players, but administratively are an absolute mess. I'm trying to decide which one I'd prefer. I mean, right now, I definitely prefer the Stormers in terms of playing results and stuff like that, but you kind of feel that it's not sustainable. So, yeah. I'm gonna wrap up in the 5 minutes here. So, because yeah, unfortunately, I do tend to rant, and I've got other things to do, but I still like to do these sort of half-an-hour sessions. I think are quite cool. I heard the Lions are going to buy Ruiz. The question is, does Evan Ruiz make the Lions starting lineup? I suppose he does now that Vincent Tuka's left. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Emmanuel's playing pretty well at 8th man, hey? So, I mean, I'm not sure if we need Evan Ruiz. You know, I prefer for us to give us Damien Willemse. Yeah, if I could handpick one player from the Stormers, it would be Damien Willemse. He can come. If he was replacing Burger Undal with Similani outside him. Oh, Jordan Hendricks at 10. Oh. Now I'm getting excited about hypotheticals that'll never happen. What is it? Willems is being paid like 5 million rand a year or whatever it is. I'm sure I can sell a few things. Does anybody want to buy this ruler? We're fundraising for Damien Willemse. That's where I wanted to just include the Cheetahs in the URC because they've all been contract stuff signed for like 5 years or whatever it is. Cheetahs beat Leinster in Pro 14. Most likely the format is why the Cheetahs can't join 100%. In 2017, they were probably only smiles on the face. The Lions were fantastic that year. Yeah, they were. It was a good time. And then it was frustration when we couldn't win a Super Rugby final. I don't know how we didn't do it 3 times. Oh, Quacker Smith, you stole ours. Don't even choke. Don't steal our Stormers. Keith Taylor says, listen, yeah, Will Smith, calm down. And actually, bugger you, because just remember that I still haven't forgiven the Stormers for ruining Alton Yankees. You guys took them for a season. You absolutely ruined them. We had to pick up the pieces. And look at him now. You know, whatever I was going through here, Alton Yankees the other year, I'm blamed down to that year at Stormers. That's all down to you. But to recap for those that missed it, so the announcement today is that the Cheetahs and the Lions will both be going into the European Challenge Cup. The Sharks, Stormers, and Bulls will all be going to the Heineken Cup, Champions Cup, which is what La Rochelle just won last weekend with Raymond Roulet and Dylan Lates. So it's all very exciting. So we are officially in Europe next season, like in terms of the entire Europe, in terms of playing English sides, playing French sides, playing all the sides. I think that I reckon New Zealand and Australian teams are looking at us going, bugger, we really cocked this up because, let's be honest, Super Rugby has not been the same this last 2 seasons with our South African sides. And I, for one, the concept of like a Saracens playing down the road, like that excites me. I mean, we could have Romain Intermac and Anton Dupont playing at Loftus. I can go and watch those 2 play live. When were you gonna? We were ever gonna be able to play Romain Intermac and Dupont live in South Africa? Now we can. So yes, we might. And the nice thing is we get to see the New Zealand players anyway because they're gonna play one home game in South Africa. So, yeah, I think it's fantastic. We're gonna get so many cool players playing here. But yeah, but just before we wrap up, I'm gonna live stream any games tomorrow. I don't know. I might do some Curry Cup. It depends on the schedule tomorrow. We might maybe look at Ulster versus Munster. Yeah, let me know. Should we try and do Ulster versus Munster? Or should we try and do a Curry Cup match? It'll only be the 6 o'clock game at a push I might be able to do. Let me know which one you'd rather do. And then on Saturday, we're definitely going to do the Bulls game and the Stormers games. We might do Curry Cup for the Sharks versus Lions, or we might do Leinster versus... Who is this playing? Glasgow. 2017 was very close to the win for Super Rugby Lions. What happened to Alton in jail? He's not in jail yet. Are you so loyal to your Lions and hate the Stormers that you wouldn't even support the Stormers that play against Edinburgh? Nah, I mean, I'd like to see them win. Although, from a purely like selfish perspective, fun fact: Jacques Niamba has confirmed that the box squad will only be announced once the SA teams are finished playing in the URC. So if the Stormers got knocked out this weekend, and Sharks or Bulls, whoever win, got knocked out next weekend, then we'll have a Springbok announcement. So there is that little bit of a trade-off. Still hate Alta for ruining the Storms for a few months. Some might say started the administrative mess at Western Province. No, man, you guys ruined him because you took him and you took Yakotata, and now Yakotata is just nowhere. I thought he was going to be the next Bok fullback. You ruined our players. You ruined them. Super Rugby Trophy looks okay, not bad, but Super Rugby is so boring. How good was Tian Swanepoel in the Curry Cup? I actually missed that game, so I actually cannot comment on that. I was at the Lions Cricket Awards. So yeah, we're gonna wrap it up there, people. Have a fantastic day ahead. We will be live latest on Saturday for 2 matches. Hopefully we'll try and do another one tomorrow. And obviously we'll have previews for the weekend going out in the next day or 2. We'll have reviews over the weekend. We will hopefully have a Sunday catch-up session on Sunday night, which will be quite a lot of fun. Because Sunday box training begins, not box squad training, because they haven't announced the squad, but training begins within the box camp. Which should be very exciting. People, go back to work. Get off your lunch hours. I'm going to go find myself some food as well. Have a fantastic day further. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And we'll chat to you guys all very, very